Good evening, everybody.
We're on the record? No?
Not yet.
All right, we're off the record.
Yeah, just not
No
yet.
problem.
Good evening, everybody. I apologize for the delay. Additionally, I want to apologize for the incorrect time that was recorded and sent out as 7 o'clock. We had changed the meetings to 7:30 months ago, and I apologize for that oversight. We're in the process of taking care of that. So those of you that were here at the proposed 7 o'clock time, I apologize. Not a great way to start my new chairmanship, but it is what it is.
You're fired, Jeff.
Yeah. Fine. No problem. And that's why we're not on the record, okay?
Oh, gee. I
So-
thought you want a transcript.
Anyhow, so I was just discussing how we're gonna handle this. Wanted to make sure that it was legally noticed and that we're not in any violation, which would create an easy appeal situation. But it would appear that tonight's applications are somewhat, understandable and somewhat easy to go through. So I would ask everybody to keep your presentations short and to the point, but I believe both attorneys that are representing the applicants tonight are very familiar with our process, so I don't need to go through. Yeah, okay? So we're all good there. Channel 79, we're ready to go. Bonnie,
We are on the record.
thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, everybody. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Town of Darien Zoning Board of Appeals. It is September the 28th, 2022. I'm going to start with postponements and continuations. The application 12-2022 of Matthew Albertelli has been am I postponing this or am I continuing this?
Postponing.
Postponing, okay. So that hearing is postponed until October 29th. October 19th, I apologize. Wasn't there a continuation of
Yeah.
one?
Top of the page.
Thank you.
First one, 14.
Thank you very much. So calendar hearing number 12-2022 postponed to October 19th. Calendar number 14-2022 for 35 Herman Avenue is now opened and now continued. Good?
Yep.
Good.
Thank you.
All right, here we go. We're going to start with calendar number 13-2022, the application of Amy Zapatakis on behalf of William and Claire Munger for property known at 29 Hillcrest to allow the construction of a one-story covered porch addition. All right, Amy, I'm going to ask you one question before you start. What are the dimensions of this covered porch? I'm either going to save you a lot of time or I'm not.
Can I at least introduce myself?
Oh, of course you may.
Hi, Amy Zapatakis, Rucci Law Group, here on behalf of Claire and William Munger, who are here with me today, as well as their architect. So the original proposed porch that my clients brought forward in their application covered the entire landing, and the landing is 9 foot 9 inches wide, 4 feet deep. After we filed that application, spoke with Woody about it, and spoke with Mr. Woodside about it, and he indicated that that was probably larger than this board would be amenable to. So my clients went back to their architect and did everything they could to try to reduce the size of it. The pillars that support the roof are now outside pillar to outside pillar, that's 8 feet. So they brought it in, so it's not on the corners anymore of the platform. If they bring those pillars in any further, they will be in front of the windows that are on either side of the front door. So that's as far as they could bring them in. So that does mean that the roof itself, because of the roof overhangs, the soffits, which they want to have match the rest of the house, will be wider than 8 feet.
So how much wider?
The soffits on the house are 6 inches,
So a foot wider in total.
correct.
So my other question is, can you take us through a little bit chronologically? The landing, when was that built?
The landing was built when the house was built,
So the landing has always been non-conforming?
correct. And I think if I can just kind of, I'm not going to try to do my full presentation because I was sort of skipping around already, but if I can just say that part of the issue here, and of course, if anyone's been by the house, you'll see that they'd already started building. So obviously, my clients apologize for that. There was obviously some confusion. And part of that confusion stemmed from the fact that the sellers, they just bought it in 2020. And the sellers of the house left them a survey that showed the lot line along Hillcrest as a side lot line with a 15-foot setback. So they thought that the front of the house was conforming. And it's not. We're not denying that. We have a proper survey now. And the front of and so there was a prior variance granted for this house because it is non-conforming both in the front and then and then in the rear of the
Did
house.
they file for a construction permit before they started the construction?
Unfortunately, that was filed simultaneously with when the construction was started.
Did they get the permit?
Well, no, because as soon as they filed the permit, it went to Mr. Woodside's desk, and he said, this is a problem, which it was. And so we're trying to rectify that. So they stopped, and they
So
stopped.
the contractor didn't,
The
the
con-
contractor and your clients kind of jumped the gun on the construction.
The contractor jumped the gun. My client was down at Town Hall herself filing for the building permit.
And all this framing that we see in this picture was done before the,
Stop work order was issued, yes.
okay.
So why are they doing this?
Well, because they've got a front landing that is currently uncovered, and they want to have a covered front landing so that, when people come to the front door, they're out of the elements, packages are out of the elements, all of that, sort of the standard reasons why you would want a covered front entryway.
Is this the only construction that was subject to that construction
No.
permit?
Yes.
The only planned construction was this?
Yeah, they are planning on doing some interior work, but that hasn't been filed yet. And we did discuss, obviously, the need for building permits before any
So you're
work is
just,
done.
you're asking us for a variance of 1 foot larger than what the board in the past has kind of established as sufficient variance for a covered porch of 8 by 5, and you're proposing 9 by 4.
Right, and that is because of the existing structure, the existing, like I said, the existing landing, if you bring it in.
And the side light windows.
Correct.
But the whole thing is non-conforming. The pad was built in a non-conforming space.
Actually the front of the house is non-conforming.
Right.
And part of the problem, like I said, is, we've got a non-conforming house. It was built before the regulations. We also have, the other interesting thing about this lot is that the way the the way the road curves there, it curves away from the house. So actually, if you look at it visually, you would have no idea that this house is non-conforming, in addition to the fact that across the street
You mean
is
as
the
you drive up Hillcrest, the road bends to the left?
Correct. And in addition, across the street is the R1/3 zone with a shallower front yard setback.
So what year was the house built?
It was built in 1932, according to the prior variance.
And you think the stoop was built in 1932?
There aren't any indications that it was built at a separate time. I mean, there's no other way to, that's the front door to the house.
It's in
There's
pretty
no
good-
other way to get in.
It's in pretty good shape.
I mean, I would have to imagine at some point it was repaired, but
Right.
there has to have been something in
So,
front
but
of the
that
house to get
structure,
in.
you don't think was an addition to the house, that structure that comes out?
Not according to the building plans that, not according to what's available in the building department. I don't have building plans for the house because of the date in which it was built. I do know that the addition on the back, the survey, the house looks the same in the front when they did that addition in '89, which the prior variance was granted for.
Mr. Chairman,
Mm-hmm,
I can clarify one feature here.
mm-hmm,
A masonry stoop or steps,
mm-hmm.
we don't consider as
Right.
building structure.
Right.
Mhm.
But accept them as a landscape feature.
Right, but they were in a non-conforming location,
Non-conforming.
even if it's not a non-conforming structure.
Well,
Well,
I'm sorry, maybe I'm being unclear. The house is non-conforming. If you have a landscaping
Right,
stoop, it wouldn't be
right.
considered.
But if that were
non-conforming.
the only piece that was outside the buildable area, it'd be
Mhm.
okay.
Right. But the house itself is outside of the buildable area, correct?
Okay. We know we know what the issue is.
I know what the issue is. Would you like to add anything else?
I mean, I think I've sort of, like I said, I jumped around a bit, but,
Me too.
you know, again, when they first bought the house, they didn't realize that they were even in the front setback. They have already reduced the design of the covering so that it is not covering the entire front stoop any longer.
No, I get it.
And
Okay.
so we're asking a variance for the front of the entry to be 27.5 feet from the front property line in lieu of the 40-foot required front yard setback.
I get it.
Amy, are they giving up anything else? Is there a shed they're tearing down, anything else?
There is a shed in a non-conforming location that they'd be willing to remove if that would be of help to the board.
Okay.
Well, you know the board always likes improvement on non-conforming
I do.
issues.
I do, and we've discussed that, and I've explained to them that they have some conforming locations if they need they just need it as a tool shed that they can.
I understand. Is there a non-conforming place they can put it?
There's a conforming place, there are lots
Ah,
of
it's-
non-conforming places.
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
I got a little rattled at the 7 o'clock time. I'm sorry. Okay. I
Yes.
think you're okay. I
Yes,
think you're okay.
There are conforming locations that they can.
That's
put
what I
a
wanted
new
to
tool-
say.
tool
Thank
shed.
you.
Correct.
You're good. I'm not. Okay, Gary, do you have anything more to add? Matt?
I have no more questions. No questions.
Dan? No. Barb? Believe we're done here.
Thank you,
Thank
appreciate your
you.
time.
Is there anybody from the audience like to be heard on this application? That's a no. This hearing is closed. Moving right along, we're going to go to calendar number 16-2022, the application of Wilder Gleason on behalf of William Hausberg on property known as 8 Pratt Island to allow the construction of a replacement two-story residence with mechanical equipment. Mr. Gleason?
Good evening, Wilder Gleason Law representing the applicants Will and Abby Hausberg. Actually, it's 8 Pratt Island LLC, an LLC in which they took title to the property. They own the
Thank you for the
property
correction.
immediately next door, and we were before you in calendar 5/2022 for variances to put a little addition on the front and clean up, relocate equipment and stuff like that. They purchased this property before we applied for that set of variances, and they intend to create a smaller house. This property has, let's go to the overview. So this property, and each of you has a composite of all of the slides that we have here. If you can't see clearly on the screen, it's right before you. So our property currently is this one right here, And this is Nash Island and Pratt, just go back if you will, to the overview. This is Nash Island, and this is Pratt Island. And that's the bay up here, okay, Norotan Bay. And the access is off of a 30-foot right-of-way. And because it's a 30-foot right-of-way, it's not a street. And therefore, we don't have a front yard, we don't have a side yard, we have rear yards. And even though most of these lots are undersized, there's 1, 2 legally sized lots on this island, and a lot of tiny little ones here. Ours is half an acre in a 1 acre zone. And you'll see that there's been a lot of variances or nonconformities approved over the years as we go through this. But our immediate neighbor, Peter McLaughlin, and his wife Lori own this property at 9 Pratt, and they have signed off on this. They've looked at the plans, they're all fine with it. And they also own this property here. And if we could zone in on the our property. This is our property, and look at the screening that has existed, that has been planted by the McLaughlins and the former owners, and we'll have some pictures that show what that looks like. But let's look at the next, which is the survey. This survey shows the current residence. It's about 5,300 square feet. It's 4 bedrooms. It's got a pool here. The pool is too close. It's less than 40 feet from mean high water. It complied when it was built in the early 2000s. Mean high water has been modified, or the new surveyor has located it in a slightly closer distance. It's about 37 feet. We are, the bulk of the house, we got a variance back in 2000 for a 25-foot setback here. And the biggest part of the house, essentially a significant portion of it, is 25 feet away from the McLaughlin property line, and the setback's 40 feet. So there was a variance back in 2000 for that. This property is non-conforming in a number of ways. It's 25.3 to the building, but then you've got a 1-foot eave, so it's 24.3. We got a variance back in 2000 to have a 24-foot setback. So that's legal.
Was that an addition that was done to the?
That was a brand-new house done in 2000.
So this house is only 22 years old?
This is 22 years old, and we propose to raise it and build something about 2/3 the size,
Right.
much smaller. Instead of 4 bedrooms and 4 or 5 baths, this is 3 bedrooms and 4 baths. And it's clean and lean and further from the setbacks of the property lines than what's there now. So,
So why isn't that just, why don't you just focus your presentation on that?
okay.
Yeah,
What more do we need to know?
yeah.
You know what, we'll go to, I won't go through all the issues, so let's just keep going. Next one, yeah, there's pictures here. We'll take you through the pictures of the screening. We'll do this very quickly. This is the existing house. That's McLaughlin over here. You can see screening here. Next picture. This is the back. That's McLaughlin is on the other side of that. Next picture. This is looking from that corner. This is the garage with the 1-foot overhang. That's 24 feet from the property line, 25.3 to the face of the building, basically. That's the driveway. This is coming up the driveway, looking at the front of the house. Okay? Next picture. Existing. We have a first floor of 13.2 and a crawl space underneath. Neither of those comply with FEMA currently. We're going to 15 and no crawl space. Next slide. Existing, we're at elevation 12 on our first floor for the equipment. And, excuse me, it's 12 for the equipment, and we're going to be 15, but the equipment's going to be located 25 feet away from McLaughlin. But you'll see that the house itself, we've pulled it further away. So, existing, we have a series of setbacks. These are in your picture. We're 24 feet to the eave, 25.3 to the house. This corner is 28 feet. This is 37.5 to the pool, 37.75. All of these, the pool will now be conforming 40, more than 40. This is more than 40, more than 40. 28.8 here, we're 28 feet on this corner. So this corner is getting pulled 0.8 of a foot further from the property line. This house now is 31 feet from the property line. And the mechanical equipment will be 25 feet.
But can you explain why you can't bring it 40 feet?
You don't wind up with, the buildable area gets too small to accommodate even this more modest house.
I don't even know what
If we.
your
went to
other
40 feet,
property,
I
your
would
other
lose-
property is up to the left, right?
This other property's here, yes.
Okay, so explain to me why you can't move it further than
We're moving
31
6 feet.
But why can you not do it further?
Um,
What's the constraint?
Well, you've got 40 feet here. You could slide it, there would be no place for the pool. I mean, that's
Because,
because you got 40 feet here, you've got to have a terrace of some sort separating it. This pool is right at the 40 feet, so it's designed to comply. And
I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing an
here's 40
area.
feet here.
Right, so what's that area? Right,
That's going to be very
that's
close
more
to
than
40 feet. I'm about 5 feet here from the pool. And you're asking me to move it from 31 to 40. I got to move it.
I'm just
9
saying,
feet.
I'm asking you what your constraint was, like why you can't make it more, you're raising the house.
Raising that.
So in some ways, it's a blank,
It's a blank slate, and you know what?
right.
If
So
we,
I'm just, it's like, if you had a blank slate,
Yeah.
why, the question is, why can you not design a house that's more conforming than what you're proposing?
and the
And by
answer,
the way, I think a desired, you know as well as I do that landowners' desires don't equate to
Right. Okay, yeah,
a variance, so.
that's true. And the minimum variance, it's all that sort of stuff.
Right, right.
But what you have is a neighborhood, when you look at this, where there's a history of this, and we are improving an existing situation,
But
and
I'm
we
not-
are reducing existing
So you're
nonconformities.
arguing that, but you're not
And-
answering the question.
Well,
Why, like, what is wrong, what is the physical constraints of the property that would prohibit you from doing more? I get what you're arguing, you'll argue that
Yes, Okay.
articulately, I know that, but what are the physical constraints of the property?
Like,
You
is there a
have-
septic system that's somewhere in?
no, we are now on sewers, so septic is.
So
not
what
a
is,
concern.
if we, and I don't know northwest orientation here, what is up from the house?
You mean when up here?
Yes, what is that
Long
land?
Island Sound is here.
Right, so what's the setback requirement? It's
So-
not, like, what would be
Well, here's.
allowable up that
so-
way?
So just take a look. That's 40 feet, basically.
Yep.
That's 40 feet, okay? So if you add 50, if you add, we've got to go to 40 here. You take 12 feet away here and take this 9 feet away.
Right, so shift that up,
So we shift that up and you lose the pool, okay?
but maybe,
And-
you get a variance for the pool, but you move the house further from another person's house.
But that neighbor is perfectly happy with it. And
Today's
it's been
neighbor.
there.
But today's neighbor is,
And he's signed off on,
I know, but today's neighbor's happy, you know.
oh,
if you think
but,
about
well,
it.
the other constraint we have, frankly, is that there's a VE zone here.
Okay, see, this is what you
And what we
need to,
want to do is we want to put the house in an AE zone, and we're doing some filling to do that. And we're creating a platform here that is further from the water, because the VE zone comes much closer. And if we were to move this way, we would be in a VE zone. And then the house would have to be up at 17 feet instead of 15. It would be
where's
designed.
that zone demarcation?
I think we have to go to the survey at
I
the
can actually
end.
draw for you guys. Let's hop to the next slide. It might answer some of your questions about the setback.
I'm sorry, I can't pick you up over there.
Okay, so this next slide shows the setbacks, okay?
That's more helpful, that's helpful.
I think that's helpful to you and your questions. This is the portion that is outside. We've added all of the square footage of the equipment pad, which is 25 feet away. This is 31, this is 28.8. But you can see what happens once we push this.
But I still
9 feet.
wonder if you're not better off having the pool shift the whole thing up to the left a little bit. 5 feet. You're still within what he just drew, and you're 5 feet further from them.
I mean, instead of putting the pool here, move the pool.
No, just shift the whole thing in the direction up or left.
My name's Jake Watkins with
Jake,
Roger
you
Fair.
gotta come here to
No,
speak.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, that's a different thing.
Sorry.
It's okay, I can move.
Thank you. Could you have your name, please?
Jake Watkins, Roger Ferris and Partners.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, in this design, we've placed the pool as close as possible to the house. You can see right here.
That's not
this
what I'm
very-
saying. Shift the whole pool and house complex.
So if we shift the whole pool and house complex further over this way,
Right.
we're outside the setbacks, out in the VE zone, and it's a problem.
Okay, but you're already outside the setbacks. So I'm thinking put the pool outside the setbacks. But I understand
So we'd still have to go for a
velocity
variance
zone.
for the pool.
Correct. But that's less impactful where that is than being closer to someone's home.
Well, I don't know, I mean, so we'd have to get a variance from this neighbor, or talk to this neighbor about getting a variance for the pool here.
Not if it, well,
I mean, I
You
don't know.
still
We're-
anyway, because
We're
they're
talking
within-
about future neighbors and future
but
situations
that-
here.
right, but you should be talking to that neighbor anyway,
Isn't that the
Because he's within
Houseburg
the-
property?
100 feet.
But we're not talking about the current neighbors, the current approvals, the current support that we currently have for this design right here, which we have from all the neighbors
Okay.
in the surrounding. It's from this neighbor,
Yep,
from this neighbor,
yep.
perfectly willing to move forward with this application as
Right,
is.
but you know that's not the burden.
I
That you
do
have
know
to
that,
meet.
but what you're suggesting also is to make this less conforming or more
Correct.
conforming on this side.
Correct.
Make it less conforming on this side, which would have an impact on this neighbor.
Well,
I don't see
I
it being
disagree.
less conforming on the other side.
I
You're
disagree.
pointing straight out to the upper left. I mean,
I-
now I'm confused too. What are you missing here? If you literally go upper left, how
A
does that
little bit
impact?
of a little bit of the pool will be outside the dotted red line,
Yeah.
but the building
It's
will be
still-
further away
I
from the
guess it's
property
still,
line.
it's still outside the dotted red line. It
Correct.
still requires a variance.
Correct.
And so we're asking for a minor variance in our mind, a more conforming variance in our mind on this side, and no variances on this side. What you're asking for us to do is
I
require.
don't think I don't
variances
think
over
you'd have
here.
a variance on the right-hand side. It'd be towards the sound is where your variance is.
Well, are you suggesting that we also move the equipment so it's 40 feet away?
No, I'm not saying 40 feet. I'm saying, all I'm asking is that the minimal adjustment necessary, Wilder, or can
Well, I
you
think
do more?
what happens is you push on one side of the building, then you're gonna need a variance.
That's exactly right, and the pool will move up to the left a little bit.
I guess I see what you're saying. I mean, you're asking for a variance that impacts maybe the water more, or a different neighbor more.
Would be I think would be the water more.
I professionally and personally think it would be both. It would impact the neighbor at 6 Pratt, and it would impact the water as well, and perhaps you could argue that impacts the neighbor across the water, or I mean, you could go that far to say as much. I think the overall idea here is that these lots are small. They're not conforming in any way, shape, or form. There's not a single piece of property that has a conforming structure on it in this situation right now, in this area. I think we have to ask for some variance.
I agree.
We're asking for this variance right now.
I agree. I understand what you're saying.
And we thought this was a good design, and it was something that was acceptable to the most directly affected neighbor. Anyway, I'm repeating something that I've said twice already. So
Okay.
let's-
All right,
Let's go
so-
through, but let me go through this, because, Jeff, sorry.
Okay. All right. There are a few things I'm not too sure I care about. Number one, future residents' position and opinion on this house. Right now, I'm more interested in the current neighbor's opinion. And I'm hoping that Mr. McLaughlin's letter is on record, just.
There is no letter from him. My client spoke to him, he wrote, McLaughlin wrote a letter. I have worked with you for many years. If you want us to provide an email or letter from McLaughlin, we can obtain it.
Would you ask Peter to do that for me, please? Because I just want it in the file,
Okay.
so we have it.
We will do that.
Let's just do that.
Okay,
That's number one. I'm not very concerned with that right now. And I'm really not all too sure I'm concerned with whether the pool. Sorry, it's not me this time. It's not.
Unbelievable.
Nice sound.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. I'm sorry, can you move closer to the mic so I can hear you, please? Okay, so I've established the neighbor issue. The other thing is that I'm not too sure whether I care whether the pool is non-conforming or the house is non-conforming and whether it's closer to Mr. McLaughlin's house or not. It seems very minor to me. What I'm seeing right now is a considerable reduction in non-conformity.
and that we have in spades.
I see that.
And we have other documents that will show the volume as well. So in this way, if I can go, Joe.
Yeah.
This one, we have conforming 22, it's existing, the footprint is 3,149. 2257 is conforming, non-conforming is 892 square feet. In this one, we're reducing the over footprint by 26%, 806 square feet. The conforming is reduced by 24%, and the non-conforming goes from 892 down to 617. That's a 31% reduction that you see in non-conforming here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go to the next slide. This is the volume, and I love this slide because it really shows what happens. This is the volume that is non-conforming now of the house. It's a 94,000 cubic feet, 74,000 is conforming, 20,000 is non-conforming, that's the red. We're reducing the overall volume of the house by 49%. This is less than half the size of the existing house. You can see that in this. The conforming, we're reducing the conforming site volume by 54%, and we're reducing the non-conforming by 34%. We go from 20,000 cubic feet down to 13,000.
All right, I get this. I just stated that I can clearly see a considerable amount of reduction in nonconformity. So we don't need to go there anymore.
Okay.
I get it.
Can-
So I'm fine right now.
Is everybody, can I just?
I'll deal with that in deliberations.
Okay.
What I'd like to know right now, is there anything other than reducing the nonconformity or anything of the nature that you'd like to add before I go to the board? Because
Yes.
I need to speak with the board right now.
Let me go to the hardships at the end of this. We'll skip, yeah, so this is in your package.
Mm-hmm.
We have the hardships, but the reduction in nonconformities. We're going from, where the new residence will be at 15 feet, which complies with FEMA. We don't comply now. Where all mechanical equipment will be at 15, we don't comply now. So we will be compliant. We eliminate the non-conforming crawl space. We reduce the volume of the footprint that's non-conforming, reduce the non-conforming volume, and we increase the house setback from 25 feet existing to 28.8, with the predominant setback being 31 feet along the McLaughlin property line. The only mechanical equipment will be located within 25 feet, and right now we have an eave 24 feet away and the face of the building 25 feet away. So there's very substantial reductions, not only in volume, but in other issues and FEMA compliance that this is going to create.
Okay. Is there anything in particular with regard to hardships that you'd like to address before I start discussing this with the board?
We have the small size of the lot, the change in interpretation of the regulations in the 1990s, which put us from a 25-foot side yard setback potentially to 40-foot rear yard. We have the prior variance for this property, which was granted in 2000 for calendar 1009, which is part of the record. And
With all due respect, unless I'm missing something, the house that was granted the variance in 2000 is now being torn down.
correct.
So,
But that gives us a history, anyway. And then we reviewed the plans with McLaughlin's. We'll be happy to submit an email.
yes, I'm sure you will.
Can you explain, the mechanicals now, including the pool mechanicals, are where?
Those are located, let's go back to the survey.
South side of the house.
It's on this side. Here's the mechanicals here.
So nowhere near
They're near
in
this
McLaughlin's,
neighbor, but
right,
not
near
near
yourselves, not.
Yeah, yeah.
And what mechanicals are we talking about putting
There's
there?
the.
Are the pool mechanicals gonna be on that side?
There's a generator. There's I think 2 or 3 HVAC compressors. And the pool equipment would be located there too? Yes.
Okay, so my point being.
All of the
you're
equipment is
moving-
going
You are moving the noise generating equipment.
next to the
Next
McLaughlin
to-
property line,
next
which
to
they've
the-
looked at and
I
signed off
understand
on.
that.
And there's this
But
huge
you are
buffer
moving
between.
all of the noise generating equipment, let's just be clear, closer to them.
Yes,
So instead of wall closer to them, it is now noise generating equipment.
correct.
Okay.
And we're moving it further away from.
I'm sorry.
Can't do that, can't do that.
Which is your own, which is currently owned by the same owner.
Just to follow.
You can't have your cake and eat it too.
Just to follow the argument that we're not following in line with the current owner.
Right,
It's-
so you can't have your cake and eat it too.
We have support from both neighbors.
Yes,
Just saying.
including the same owner.
Both neighbors.
Right, it's fine.
There was also a house approved by the town of Darien.
Let me just go through that, okay, because there's that slide that you had, it's part of it. Not this one, let's go back to the overall, this one. This is Pratt Island. And what you're seeing in yellow is the portions of every house that are non-conforming, okay? So this is our current house, this is McLaughlin, this is Entre Richardson, this is Holmes, this is Riley, this is the new house that was approved last year when it should have had 40-foot setbacks, and there was, I think, an oversight by the zoning enforcement official. That's under construction or has been constructed, and this is 6 Pratt, and you can see.
Well, my only point is you admitted you have a clean slate. That's all. And I asked you whether you could make it less non-conforming.
Yes.
That's what we're gonna deliberate.
Okay.
I think there's still nonconformities regardless.
I agree.
of the layout.
Well,
And
you're
so-
proposing non-conformities.
I think that to do what,
I think regardless of how, with clean slate or not, there will be a request for a variance regardless.
Correct.
And,
Well,
regardless,
You will choose to make a request for a variance.
we would have to choose, and I think we would be forced to appear before you to request a variance.
Correct.
And no matter how we approach this, whether the house blows up by 2,000 more square feet, because we can do that, whether the pool moves further to the north side,
or closer to the water, whatever.
There
We
would
don't
be a
want to put it
variance.
in the flood zone, the VE flood zone.
But you guys know this is the hard part about this. We don't have to say yes to anything. We can make you move the house completely into the correct zone and deny the pool. Or you can come to us and say, this is a minor variance request, we'd still like the pool, we've made tremendous concessions, we're just asking for this. This seems like a bigger ask than what you really need here. I think we can all see that if you shifted that, you may not want to do that. But there have been so many times when people have come in front of us and made this argument, and we're like, you gotta work within the limitations, and they come back with a better plan. So this is a tough one for us.
Nick Darren, also from Roger Ferris and Partners. To go back to your original point, Gary, about why we situated the house where we did. If we move the pool closer that way towards the coastline, there becomes more issues with run-up, with wave action. So we worked with the coastal engineer, and we're doing our best to try to keep it as far away as possible. You know, the closer we get, the more the wave impact could potentially spread out to the neighboring property. So that was also a consideration.
What wave action are you talking about?
The wave run-up, the
Whatever.
closer this gets to the coastline, the wave will approach.
We're talking about
So here's one of the things that you have here is,
the bay waves?
this is the
What waves are you-
velocity
The
flood
wave
zone.
that's during a storm.
This is a velocity flood zone line approximate,
Right.
it's drawn. You're in the wave of them seeing.
Sorry.
And Nick drew this as an
Yeah,
approximate,
yeah.
but when you're in a velocity flood zone, you have 3-foot waves and higher. And so FEMA adopts an entirely different standard of design and construction. And you have to have your house on stilts, and the other, underneath it, you have to have the water wash through. And putting a pool in a velocity flood zone is a difficult thing to do. And I understand you guys feel we're putting too much in here and asking for too much, but we are reducing it substantially. There's just a huge reduction. And I thought that would be enough with the neighbors' support.
It might be, I don't know, that's what we're gonna discuss, but that's
I
what we're
mean,
trying to drill down.
we're making a non-conforming FEMA structure compliant
More
with FEMA.
conforming.
We're pulling everything away from the neighbor, except the equipment, which we're putting there, 25 feet away, which he's looked at and approved.
Is there
And,
any other location for the equipment?
um,
Can you put the equipment in a more conforming location? I don't know if the neighbor's not here. I don't know if he understands what's going closer to his property is the noise generating equipment. Generator could be on for a week at a time. Maybe he has one too.
I'm sure he does.
The air conditioning system and the pool pumps run continuously.
So the neighbor has reviewed and approved. We can get you the letter stating as much, so we can.
But I don't know, like, he's not here to say it. Have we talked about the noise,
It was discussed, yes.
If you want us to continue it, to get a letter from McLaughlin saying he's looked at it and looked at the mechanicals and accepts it, we can deliver that. That would make a difference.
I think I have a better idea, if you don't mind. Why don't we
Well, he can't-
discuss this?
You can't do that.
What?
You either continue it or close it.
Yeah.
I can close it and make a
But then
stipulation
then-
on I get a letter from Peter McLaughlin. Why can't I do that?
You can do that, but that may not be what he wants.
Okay, Mr. Gleason, I can close this hearing and we can discuss it and stipulate it on Mr. McLaughlin's submission of a letter of approval. If
including
he
the
sends me a
equipment.
letter
Yep.
that says, hey, no, you're done.
Yep.
You come back.
Yep.
Frankly, I prefer my way because I don't want you on the agenda again, so we have to go through this again.
You know what, we'll do it your way, I think.
No.
No, we're happy to do
I'm not
that.
making a decision, we're gonna deliberate this through the board, but I'm just asking,
We're
would you
happy to
agree to
close,
that?
and if you guys see your way to approving with the stip, that's fine. If you don't, we'll have to reconsider.
Because I understand Mr. Green's issues, I get it. Can I ask, well, I can. Is there a generator on this property now?
I believe there is on the south side, yeah. But in,
I don't think so. I don't think so.
The reason I ask this is because this noise issue is on the table, and, if clearly noise is being I understand the whole thing. I understand the equipment coming closer to the Bob's house, I get it, understood. These generators are pretty quiet now anyhow, but I
And
understand.
we're happy if you want to put a stip that the generator be because they have them now down to 55 decibels.
Yeah, I know.
And 55 decibels is this room with nobody talking. It's really quiet.
Okay, so Gary has a point. Once I close this and the board doesn't agree with my stipulation, we may have a problem. So I may backtrack here and I may continue it.
Yeah.
Do you have anything more to add?
No.
I would say that there, to Nick's point previously, there are wave action reviews that have been done by Race Engineering as part of this, and very specifically where the pool is located, where the house is located, and all of the wave action does not adversely affect the neighbors as it currently stands.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Moving anything, to his point, closer and within a VE location will have an adverse effect on that wave action to the neighboring properties.
okay, I get it. Understood. If,
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, I don't see a generator on the existing survey conditions. Other things are, like 3 AC.
I'm not sure where the generator is located. It could be underneath the house.
well, and the owner's not here,
They
so
actually
we
have a
can't.
large area underneath the
Can you
house.
vent that?
Yeah, it's an open kind of garage area. It's not very conforming in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, God.
But there's no equipment on the McLaughlin side where you're, currently there's no equipment on that side of the property.
Okay, all right.
So,
All good over there?
we're good.
I'm not gonna close it yet, because
Okay.
I need to hear other comments and questions and concerns from the rest of the board. Matt?
Nothing for me.
You know, I think it's interesting that, hello, that you pointed out the nonconformings that exist in the neighborhood. I would just say that if those properties came in front of us today, we would do the same thing we're asking of you. We would make things more conforming. So it is interesting, though, to see. I understand it's a unique situation where you are.
Well, it's a product of the 1 acre zone.
Yeah,
Where everybody basically has a half acre.
right.
Go to P and Z.
So the
I know
hardship,
we did this with the
You
bay.
knew that was
and-
coming.
And it took them 4 years to do it, 4 or 5 years to get the bay regulations in.
so the hardship is undersized lot in a flood zone.
Understood lot,
Yeah,
Yep,
Yeah.
okay,
That's what I
Substantial
think.
reductions, you know.
all right.
Okay.
I'm feeling right now that I'm more comfortable in continuing this, okay? But, just because.
Don't
So,
they have to choose to do that? Do they have to?
Oh, no, we can choose, we're happy to do that, and we'll get you a letter from Gary,
and then after that, I think, depending on the board's decision, and if you end up in good shape and we continue it, I think from that point, it can be handled administratively. I don't think there's any
I don't know
reason.
what you're talking about.
What?
If it's continued, it can't be. handled
Well, when's your next, when's your next hearing?
October 19th.
Yeah, 19th.
We'll have an email, we'll have a letter to you by the 19th. So if you just continue it to the 19th.
Fine. This hearing's continued until, October 19th.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
As part of that continuing, can I ask counsel, I suggest you actually, at that point, come in with, it's not just the letter that I'd like to see. I want to see where the VE line is. And you said the engineer has approved from the wave action where you propose the pool. But what I'd like you to do is ask your engineer, if things get moved 5 feet, would their opinion be any different?
We'll do that.
Is there anything else that you're looking
No,
for?
because you know what I want. I want to see why, I want an answer. Why you can't shift everything more than you're proposing so that you can move things further away from the property line into a more conforming location. Knowing that you push here and it comes out there, I get it. My personal opinion is move the building and the noise that's, I think, I think that impacts neighbors more. My personal opinion is that a building and the utilities impact neighbor more than the pool would moved 5 feet up to the left using the orientation that you had on the screen. And what I'm asking you to do is to demonstrate, to me, maybe other members have the same interest, why that's not a possible solution.
We can look at that.
Could you walk over to the microphone, please?
Yeah, we're kind of
you.
continuing it here.
It's just like,
Yeah, but because if he's gonna deliver stuff, I wanna make sure that's enough, Jeff, to get me comfortable with, because I have to tell you, a letter from the neighbor isn't enough for me. And he needs 4 of us to get a variance.
I gotta agree with Gary.
And
I
I'm
love-
sensing some discomfort from your right side.
I am, but either way, I think you did a sensational job of reducing what they're offering. That's great. I just think there can be more done, and we talk constantly about this minimal adjustment, minimal adjustment. You've got to show us that this is the optimal location because there's limits to this. This is a hardship. That's, I guess, what we're looking for. I know you guys did a great job. I just don't know that it's enough to get what you want.
There's been a lot of work prior to this in terms of reductions of the structure, in terms of pushing it back, pushing it back. The current structure that's there is 5,300 square feet. The structure that we pushed to is 3,000. I don't know what the reaction of the owner is going to be or what they're going to want.
I'm not suggesting shrinking it anymore.
I
Let's
know.
just tell me why
I-
that's the right location. Tell me why you can't get another 3 feet, 5 feet, 7 feet away
With
from the
the
property line.
existing design as is, we will look at that.
That's all
They may
that-
also want us to look at other things in terms of the size of the house and how that also fits in there too.
That's fine.
Okay, all right.
So we're continued.
We are continued.
Thank you.
Sorry, Jeff, I just wanted to give the applicant the best chance of winning me over.
I understand. We'll get there. Okay, so I think where I am at this point is there anyone in the audience that'd like to be heard on this application? That's a no. Okay, so this hearing's been continued, so we're gonna go into deliberations, okay? So let's start with Ms. Zapatakis and the porch. Gary, comments, questions?
Perfectly fine.
Fine.
I mean, look.
Matt? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, look, I mean, I just said, well, it's not as deep as we would permit. It's 4 feet instead of 8 feet, 5 feet, which is good. I get that the pad is there. The pad has been there. I believe there's no evidence that the pad isn't there for quite a long time. So they're going right above the existing pad. They're asking for 1 more foot of width so that the supports are not blocking the side lights of the door. I think it's fine. I like the fact that they want a covered landing. I think that's safer. And so I think they're improving the condition in a way that's, I think it's minimal. I know it's slightly above our kind of administrative approval level of 5 by 8, but it's 4 by 9. You know, like, do the math, it seems pretty comfortable to me. So that's my justification for saying absolutely fine.
Okay. Matt?
I agree with all the same points.
Dan? You good?
I say yes, but I want the shed gone.
Right. Or conforming,
Conforming.
right. Which you said could be done.
She would be done, yes, I like that option. I think that's always a great option to do.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So that's it.
And if you would, we should condition it to have to do that before they get a permit to construct the porch, which is
I actually don't care about
half-constructed.
that. Do it as people are doing it, but you're not gonna give the CO until,
We have trouble with that sometimes.
Well,
you have
Go
trouble,
ahead.
we,
build things
we're in
that don't
deliberation,
fix
right? Well, we
but
just.
you won't give the CO.
Then why didn't we,
Sometimes people don't care.
excuse me, please. Why didn't we do that with Racino then? Racino is full of before certificate of occupancy, before,
Yeah, we did.
oh, okay.
It says prior to issuance of a construction permit, racinos have to fix the accessory structures.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
You guys can do, I wouldn't require it in this case. I think it's a minimal thing. I think they'll do it. And if anyone ever wants to sell a house, they're gonna close the CO.
Maybe.
I agree. I don't care when they do it, I just want it done. Okay?
So the stipulation is what?
They will remove the shed and put it in
Remove
a
it to a
conforming
conforming
location.
Right.
Before the issuance of a C as a certificate of occupancy, is that correct?
Correct. Yes. That's right, Jeff. I'd go with that.
All right, you good? Everybody good? Can I have a
I'll move
motion,
to that.
please?
I'll move what he said. Approve the variance of, that would allow the construction of the overhang being the covered porch being 4 by 9, conditioned on the movement, either removal or the movement of the shed to a conforming location, and that would be a requirement before the town issues the CO for the whole project.
You make a motion?
That's my motion.
Okay, I second that.
All in favor? Okay, 5-0. All right, and Wilder's been continued. So there's nothing to discuss.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes, sure.
we do other business before I adjourn or no?
We don't,
Or-
we weren't able to get the July 20 minutes completed for you, so
That's fine.
postpone on that anyway.
Mm-hmm, that's fine.
Historical preservation considerations, I don't know if there's any update, but
You know, it's still in the works. What we did is verify that currently there are no limitations. If you buy a home that's considered historic, which is 50 years older, so 1972 and back, there's nothing to protect it from a historical standpoint. So now we're considering what other towns have done in the way of historical variances or accommodations. So Woody and Jeremy prepared a huge list of all the towns in Fairfield County and what they currently do from a legal standpoint. So we're just reviewing that with Jeremy Ginsburg and Steve Levine.
Okay.
And Steve is still on
Planning and
P&Z?
zoning. Steve.
He's the chairman of
Yes.
P&Z?
And he's working with Liz Geiger, who's the chair of ARB on this, Marion Castell,
Got it,
to come up with a simple solution. Just,
got it.
yeah.
we just mentioned, Gary actually questioned tonight about whether we should ask some town council about reducing nonconformities and how valuable that is relative to these projects.
So some applicants, especially if they're representative, come before us and said, because I'm reducing nonconformity, I don't need to demonstrate X, Y, or Z. I just don't, I'm not comfortable with the law enough to know whether that's a council offered argument or a judicially recognized argument.
I don't think it's well, what the hell?
But that's
why not?
right, so I
But
just-
don't
that's
think
one of the
that-
questions
It's just
that-
something that the board really appreciates.
I know,
So we've
but that's
always
not
been
the
like-
way it's, but that's not the way it's presented, and including what it said. If I show that I'm reducing nonconformity, then you don't have to determine hardship. I don't know whether that's.
I don't agree with that at all.
I know, Jeff,
All
but
I,
all I'm asking is, can Wayne opine?
all right.
I like that.
I mean, I know what he's gonna say. All right, so. All right.
Then
So-
I'd like to be armed with something when the council gets up and says that.
Mm-hmm,
I
no, I
think it was a
understand.
town council disagrees with you,
Mm-hmm,
so continue demonstrating your hardship, whatever it is.
I understand.
We can look into it.
Jeff, if they follow what Gary suggested, moving the entire location upward,
Mhm.
then they come to us for variance for the swimming pool.
Mhm.
And in the last 1 year, we have denied 2 applications where they came to us for the variance to the swimming pool.
Mm-hmm.
Then it becomes very hard for us to say yes, because we already have.
Yeah, we can't deliberate this application though.
Yeah, okay, I'm just saying that.
Can't deliberate this application.
So we'll see about arranging a town council.
All right, town council on Gary's issue, he can just write us a note and tell us what he thinks as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's all, right, I agree.
He doesn't, no, don't be sorry. Okay, so we've covered other business as far as I'm concerned. You okay with your historical report?
Totally.
Totally.
I don't have anything to offer yet.
Well, I
But I want to make
appreciate.
it clean and
it's-
concise
it's
and
not
a
only-
plus for homeowners and our town.
The board and the town appreciates your service and the amount of time you put into this. All right, Channel 79, we're off? We're done? No, we're not.
I'll move to adjourn.
What?
Is that what you want to do? Is a
I
motion
want you to adjourn.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
just said
I'll
I'll
move to
move.
adjourn.
Oh, thank you.
I'll second.
Done. All in favor? Channel 79, we're done.
Gary, thanks for coming in tonight.
You guys gotta regret the